This is the Domain Magnate Show, where you'll learn everything you need to know about buying, optimizing, and selling online businesses with your host, Michael Bereslavsky.
Hello, business buyers. Welcome to this short episode of the Domain Magnate Show about staying calm during stressful negotiations. We do a lot of negotiating at Domain Magnate, and quite often things get heated up and people get angry, people get agitated. Stressful situations happen in negotiations quite often. Sometimes there is a small issue that just gets exaggerated out of proportion. And sometimes there are just some misunderstandings. And it's really important to be able to keep calm and have a reasonable approach to things, to be able to find the compromise and keep the negotiation friendly. And that's a really important skill, because a lot of the times negotiations and deals fail because of something like that, just because there are some angry responses from both sides, and that causes a lot of mistrust. And then the parties just cannot find a way to get back to negotiating with trust and understanding. So often you would see deals fail because of some small issues, like a 5%, like a 2% difference in price that they just could not come closer to each other, or because of some insignificant differences in terms, like not willing to provide enough support, or a long enough non-compete period, or things like that, but generally don't matter as much. So not professional people who may only do 1 or 2, 3 deals, they are just not used to that thing. So it's really easy for them to get angry over smaller issues, and that's quite understandable, especially when there is quite a bit of money on the table. So I'm often asked how to be calm, how to be able to remain composed during a negotiation. And there are 2 things. The first one is experience. Now, my first 6-figure deal was very, very stressful. It took many weeks, and we were negotiating through emails. Every time I got an email, I would get really stressed out, and I knew that if I responded at the same time, it would probably be an angry email, and that might just ruin the deal. So I knew that I had to take some time off, close the computer, and come back to it later, maybe even the next day, to start sending the reply. And we also had some problems during the negotiation, during the inspection phase, and we had to renegotiate. It was very stressful. I wasn't sleeping well for a few days. I was really stressed. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't exercising. Then it was finally over. I felt that I just had to take a few weeks off, and I went traveling because it was so much stress that was collected over these few weeks of negotiation. But as I've got a lot more deals under the belt, it became much easier. And even more recently, 6-figure deals, there is an understanding that things will always happen. There is that comes from experience, knowing that, okay, problems will arise, will happen, and I just know that I'm going to be able to deal with them, and we'll figure something out. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. So there is just that comes from experience. And the second thing is some more deliberate training, which is some training to basically calm your mind, and that's mostly in the form of meditation. Now, there are quite a few misconceptions about meditations. So meditation is not religious. It's not necessarily a spiritual practice. It doesn't require you to adopt any sort of belief system. It's just training for your mind, just like going to the gym is training for your body. So if you go running, the first time it might be really difficult. For me, many years ago, I was in pretty bad shape. So when I first started running, I could only run for a few minutes, and it took me many months to get to reasonable shape where I could run for quite a while. And now I could easily run 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, even run a half marathon recently. And that comes from training. And similar with meditation. So at first it might be really difficult. You might only be able to do it for a few minutes at a time, just watching your breath. You watch your breath, and then you have some thoughts come in, and you kind of think about those thoughts. And then a few minutes later, you're like, oh, I forgot about meditating. So you come back to it. And that's how it is at first. But as you practice more, you get better. When I started with meditation, it was also similar like that. But it's gotten better. I recently, in fact, was on a flight, and there was a screaming, crying baby just sitting behind me. And of course, my first instinct was, well, of course, that's my luck. I'm flying on a plane, and there is a baby just behind me. There is this one seat, and that's the one I picked, of course. But then I thought to myself, well, that's an interesting opportunity to see if I could meditate in that situation with difficulty up to high level. And I actually was able to meditate. And so an hour and a half later, when we arrived, my neighbor was really stressed out because all the time he was thinking about how terrible it is that there is a crowded plane, there is no other seat, and he has to sit in front, just in front of a baby that's been crying most of the time. And I had a really nice meditation, so I felt relaxed. The best way to start is just through an app. There are some really good apps like Calm or Headspace, and there are many, many others. They are free. At first, it's important to have a commitment, like 30 days commitment, so that you can practice just like 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, because it's very easy to get started and then just quit and never try it again. So it's important to put it into your daily routine somehow. Meditation is a useful skill, just like running is useful, not in order to learn that skill of running and being fast at running, but it's also useful for your health. In the same way, meditation is useful for making you less reactive to general events and things that happen in daily life. So I still might get some angry emails on comments from time to time, and if in the past I would just immediately start thinking about how I'm going to respond and how I'm going to completely demolish that person in the next email by explaining them how they're so wrong on many different levels in every statement that they've made. Now I'm just look at it and think that's fine. It doesn't really matter. I know that as long as we are doing what we are doing well and bringing good value to our clients and being upfront and honest about what we do and how we do it, it's fine if some people get angry by that. Many deals really break apart because of very small differences, and the reason is not often because of those differences, but those differences are actually just the symptoms, but the real cause is the lack of understanding, the lack of trust between parties. And being angry and is one of the easiest ways to really break that trust that you may have been building by discussing and having some calls with the other party and negotiating. So it is quite important to be able to negotiate and conduct a deal-making process in a calm and collected and unstressful manner. Brokers also help, but ultimately it's up to you as the buyer or the seller to see what needs to be done. And this is also one of the reasons why Warren Buffett is so good at investing at what he does, because he is completely unemotional about his deals. He just looks at numbers. So what can you do? If something stressful happens during negotiation, the easiest thing you can do is just take a breath, take a deep breath, and step away. Don't send a response immediately. If it's on the phone, just take a breath. If it's through email, just step away and don't reply immediately. Take some time off to cool down and get some perspective. And also be prepared. Understand that problems are going to happen. Deals are like that. And something unexpected very often happens during negotiations, especially in the final stages. So it's also important to have a clear written agreement, to have a lot of clarity between the parties so that you know upfront that what you are going to do in certain situations. So that's it. To sum it up, you'll get better at it once you get more experience. Make sure that you write things down, that you have written agreements, and get ready for things to turn in unexpected ways. And do some meditation to be more calm during negotiations. Thank you for listening. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it on social media. And good luck with your next deal.
Domain Magnate is a leader in buying and selling online businesses with a proven track record of expertise gained from over 300 deals since 2004. To learn more about how we can help you acquire or exit a profitable online business today, head over to domainmagnate.com for more details.